Welcome to the Blues Trail Revisited podcast. It's episode 10, and I'm Ted Reed. This podcast is sponsored by the Clarksdale Tourism Commission, also widely known as Visit Clarksdale. This podcast is an offshoot of a film I finished this year about my return to the Mississippi Delta to rediscover the places I first encountered 50 years ago. To see the film, just go to www.bluestrailrevisited.com. In this episode, we're traveling up Highway 61 to Memphis, Tennessee to visit the Blues Hall of Fame, headquarters of the Blues Foundation. Famous for the Blues Music Awards and the International Blues Challenge, the foundation also spearheads some notable charitable programs for blues musicians and schoolroom education. I recently had the opportunity to talk with the foundation's new president. I'm here at the Blues Foundation in Memphis, Tennessee with the freshly seated president of the Blues Foundation, Ms. Patty Aden. Patty, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for coming to the Blues Hall of Fame.
My privilege, actually, because Ted Reed Productions is a sponsor of the foundation and, of course, of the Blues Music Awards. One of the things I wanted to talk with you about today is, when did you start as president of the Blues Foundation here?
So I'm a real neophyte. I came to Memphis in late October. So came during the depths of the pandemic while the Blues Hall of Fame and our offices were closed. But over the last 7 months, I have gotten to know the blues community, the Blues Foundation, and have just been welcomed with open arms. I'm very, very grateful for how well I've been received, how warmly I've been received.
Right. I understand you've had quite a bit of experience. What were you doing before you got to the Blues Foundation?
I came to the Blues Foundation after a long career in Philadelphia. I was at the African American Museum in Philadelphia for 10 years, 8 of those years as president of the museum. But have always worked in the cultural community. My background is historic preservation planning, and I started there preserving historic buildings, but then I found out that I like to run the organization, so have since had a career being the leader of nonprofit cultural organizations. At one point, I was the president of the Rhythm and Blues Foundation, whose mission marches along in a very similar way to the Blues Foundation, and I think that's why they gave me a call.
What were the challenges settling in during this very unusual period of time, these very unusual circumstances?
Well, there are the challenges that everyone has experienced. How do we function as a staff, especially bringing in a new person to the mix of the staff? So how do we build a collegial staff and learn how to work together, make sure that we are communicating? So those are the things that everyone is experiencing across the board. For the blues community, I think the particular challenges are that the Blues Foundation has been very focused on its events. We go from the International Blues Challenge to the Blues Music Awards, and that's been disrupted. So the idea of what's our rhythm and how can we make sure that the community stays together when these real milestones that bring our community together just aren't happening. What I understand is that the blues community loves to be in the same place. They love coming to Memphis, that dynamic of being part of the International Blues Challenge and traveling up and down Beale Street and seeing one another, greeting one another. That wasn't happening. So where's the glue? So we had to figure out how to make sure that even as we weren't together physically, we stayed together as a community.
What do you want to do to keep the foundation moving forward now that you're here?
Well, there are a couple of high strategic objectives. Yes, we want to make sure that our signature events, the International Blues Challenge and the Blues Music Awards, remain fresh and dynamic and that magnet that brings our community together. But we also want to do some other things. Of course, there is our Blues Hall of Fame, which is in the heart of Memphis. We want to make sure that the Blues Hall of Fame helps build the brand as Memphis as the home of the blues. So looking at the experience here, making sure that we welcome more and more guests, especially those international travelers. So many people come to Memphis as the starting point of their pilgrimage as they go down to Clarksdale, as they go down to the B.B. King Museum, as they travel elsewhere. So let's make sure that we are that good home base for that pilgrimage that they're making. There's also the idea of blues in the schools and making sure blues in the schools continues to help the blues grow and to acquaint our young people with blues as a unique American musical genre. There are so many young people, especially African American young people, that can benefit from not only learning the music, but the story that is behind the music. What's the context? We want to make sure that our Blues in the Schools that is offered by our affiliates across the nation is an enriching experience for young people that connects them to the blues. So hopefully we're building that next generation of blues fans. Beyond that, we know that there are some deeply embedded racial issues that have been evident within the blues community. We can't ignore that. We have to deal with that. We adopted a statement against racism, and I think that statement against racism is important, but as important as the statement itself is the action plan that comes along with it. So you're not just making proclamations, but making a commitment to do things as an organization and as a community to make sure that we do come together, that we do put aside and work through some of these deeply embedded issues that have troubled our community for a long time.
Sounds like you have quite a mission ahead of you.
It's no small task, but that's part of what excited me about coming to the Blues Foundation. Professionally, I was ready for my next adventure, but also I think there is the opportunity to really be part of lifting up blues, diversifying and growing the audience, bringing new recognition to the role that the blues has played in music across the board. There's that Willie Dixon quote, the blues is the roots and everything else is the fruits. Well, let's celebrate that. Let's help people connect rhythm and blues and rock and Americana, all of this back to the blues. It is, I think, an exciting way to make connections and grow.
How many blues stars have you been able to encounter now that you've become president, or has it been very tough just because no one has been able to see each other?
It's been very tough. It has been very tough and frustrating, but I've had wonderful moments interacting with Bobby Rush, having Victor Wainwright come to the Blues Hall of Fame and play Pine Top Perkins piano. What a moment. You cannot measure the value of interacting with people, getting to know those kinds of people on a one-on-one basis. I have such admiration for music makers and for their creativity. So I count myself lucky, and every once in a while I have to sit back and pinch myself and say, oh, I am living a real privileged life here, being able to pick up the phone and have a conversation with Shamika Copeland. How cool is that?
That's totally cool. No, I'm envious. This is like a dream job. I mean, it's a lot of work and there are a lot of other nuts and bolts that you have to keep on track of. But it's just the opportunity to be able to meet some incredible people is such an opportunity.
I have to agree. I am a person who gets excited about opportunities. Some people might describe them as challenges. But opportunities, challenges, whatever you call them, it's what keeps us energetic. It's what keeps us going. And here at the Blues Foundation, we have a lot of both. We have opportunities, we have challenges. I am very grateful that we have a supportive membership, a supportive board, an engaged board dedicated to realizing our mission. And we are committed to pressing forward, making sure that we do serve as that touchstone for the broader blues community.
Well, I'm sure blues fans everywhere are wishing you the absolute best and looking forward to what you're going to be able to accomplish here. And I include myself among them and wish you the very best as well. So thanks, Patty.
Thank you so much.
Every day I sing the blues. Every day I sing the blues. If you see me worried, baby, it's you I'd hate to lose.
At this year's Blues Music Awards, my production company sponsored the award for Best Emerging Artist Album. And the 2021 winner was 26-year-old King Solomon Hicks. We caught up with him at the beginning of this summer's tour, backing up his new album, Harlem.
If you ask me about my troubles, you know I had my share.
I'm talking with King Solomon Hicks today, and we want to talk about him and his new album, Harlem. King Solomon, how are you today?
Man, it's a pleasure to be talking on the show and talking about the guitars and the album. And, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about you. Your new album, Harlem, is really terrific. But before I ask you about that, I wanted to find out more about you. Now, you started playing guitar when you stepped out of the cradle, right?
Oh yeah. Say from the cradle to the grave.
Exactly.
But very fortunate. Both my parents were very supportive. My dad worked, and my mom was the one that, before I had my driver's license, that took me to a lot of the clubs in Harlem, and it's kind of really where I got my start around being around musicians. I caught the last of like the Lenox Lounge, St. Nick's Pub, which those are two very prominent clubs in Harlem that were actually ended up closing a couple of years back. But I got my start. Started taking guitar lessons when I was 6. And I really started playing out professionally when I was 13. And one of the first shows that I started playing at the Cotton Club when I was 13. And that kind of gave me my first glimpse of like, what is it like playing with like 15 adult musicians that don't want to take instructions from like a kid who like hasn't been playing really at all. But just that experience of being inside a venue. There's a full dance floor, 2 floor seats, about 200 people. And I remember the first 2 songs, because New York's really, it's not a blues town per se, like when I think of Memphis, Texas, or Chicago. And just, I tell people that because for all the different styles that I love. I remember my mom, I tell people that she played me anything from Nas to Nina Simone to B.B. King. Wow. So it's just like kind of like that upbringing and start just kind of gave me that type of like expansion of like, okay, this is what I want to listen to, this is what I like. But playing at the Cotton Club, I did Don't Get Around Much Anymore by Duke Ellington, Sad and Doll, and my last song was Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. Okay. And the feeling of just seeing how everybody got up on the Chuck Berry, and there's a lot of great jazz people. I mean, George Benson is a big influence. I love Joe Pass, Chet Baker, and there's a lot of jazz that I still listen to today. But just the feeling of that Chuck Berry gave the people, there was something very addictive. It's about that whole feeling to me. And from then, I feel like that's really where I first caught the bug of just like, where I felt my love for the blues. I didn't really understand it fully yet. And I find, unlike any other styles where like, I guess you have to grow with anything, but blues is a very, it's not always happy. Sometimes you're telling serious stories and you kind of have to live a little bit. So once I got past the whole high school sweetheart phase and was out on the road for a couple of times, you kind of learn how to put the feeling into the songs. but really, the Cotton Club was where I got my start. I was playing professionally all throughout high school, and my friends going to parties, and I'm like, no, actually, I gotta play at a private party in Connecticut. I can't go with y'all to hanging out too much. But it was all for me. It was just fun. I just enjoyed playing it, and I just kept getting call after call. And then out of high school, I ended up going on my first tour in Denmark.
Wow.
And then after Denmark, I ended up opening for the band Kiss on the Kiss cruise.
Really? Okay.
So we did ended up, and it was weird because Paul Stanley, I was out somewhere and I came back home, and my mom said, hey, Paul Stanley's management just got in contact and they want you to play on the Kiss cruise. And this was back in 2015 or so. Right. Before I ended up doing like the Joe Bonamassa blues cruises. And they were like, yeah, we want you to play. And I was like, no way, not Kiss. And like Lita Ford was on it. Mm-hmm. Chris Jericho, the wrestler. Right. And it was like, it's like, man, this is, it's definitely different than just playing in like a local club, and you really get to.
No kidding.
Well, this for me, it was like I just enjoyed having fun playing, but seeing like a real professional band. Like from there, that led me to do the Joe Bonamassa blues cruises, which was a much more better fit. And I was like, and then about 2 years ago, I did it for the second time. I actually got a chance to jam with some of the guys, and it was like Samantha Fish was on.
Oh, great!
Was on it. Walter Trout, Ruthie Foster, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, like some of like the top folks. It's been a very humbling, and when you're around a lot of good players, it kind of just teaches you to. It's not about look at me. You just try to. I like how Chuck Berry says, just another cog in the wheel. But fortunately, been played in Japan, played all over France, from the south and north of Spain. Pre-pandemic, I was supposed to play in London and supposed to be doing the Holland Blues Fest, and supposed to open up for Peter Frampton and John Fogerty, but all that stuff got moved to 2022. But just had a lot of good mentors, and it was one of those things where you just don't always do it by yourself. There's a lot of teaching and preparation, and somebody showing you the right records to listen to. And
I want to talk about your album. This is an amazing piece. I mean, you got all kinds of different stuff, and the thing is, it also shows what some of your influences are. Like you say, there seems to be a little, post Cream Clapton in there. Your final cut, Help Me, has got green onions at the end. I mean, it's wonderful. It really is.
You caught that very well. The whole Steve Cropper, Booker T.
Yes, exactly. So tell me about how did this album come about? Because it's an amazing combination of material. I mean, you got some instrumentals in there as well as your vocal work, and a great backup band. Who's in that?
Oh man, well this is really my first official release on a major label, and really my first time working with like a great producer. Kirk Yano is the one who produced the record, and he's a 3-time Grammy winner. I mean, he has a Grammy with Miles Davis, Mariah Carey, and Public Enemy. So just with those 3 different musical combinations, we're a good fit because he understands a lot of the old school, but also the new school too. He's from Cleveland, so a really good rocker. But it's really we put all these people together. We have the band from Soul Live. We have Eric Krasno, Neil Evans, and Alan Evans, who in the jam, they're like a jam band royalty, where just really great players. They open up for the Rolling Stones, and for people that know Soul Live, they're very on it. And also have Ryan Zoidis from the band Lettuce, and the Grammy nominated. Also, he's featured on Love Is a Lot. He's playing saxophone. But a lot of people, they say, Solomon, I have to have a young band, I have to have these young players, blah blah. And it's like I always felt like there's always time for me to find the band that looks good, but I wanted to play with people that were really seasoned and that played the blues and that are steeped in it. And we're very lucky. He lives out in PA, but had Jeff Simon from George Thorogood's band.
Mm-hmm.
He's a drummer. He's playing on headed back to Memphis and Have Mercy,
Right.
and also have the drummer from Frog Hat too, Roger Earl.
Okay.
So he's playing on What the Devil Loves For. So really a mix of some of the old school, but also some of the new school too.
The devil loves a rich man. A rich man loves his gold. Don't believe anything. Can't be bought or sold. Open up your Bible here on chapter 1. When Eve picked up that apple, the devil's work was done. Fire down below, heavens up above. All got something that we're hungry for. That's what the devil loves.
This is like a Roger knew the songwriter,
Yeah.
Roger Earl, and I guess it's a song that he had this like lying around, and he showed it to Kirk, and then Kirk showed it to me, and I was listening to it. I was like, man, I really dig this. I mean, well, just like the whole storyline, just like, talking about the rich man, then you have a poor man, and this
Right.
kind of talking about the things, the temptations in life, and it's like, it's not saying that it's good if you go for them. It's not saying that it's bad if you go for them, but just try to live accordingly. And with the blues, just kind of telling those stories, it's compared to other styles of music where it's just about the partying and dancing. There's nothing like a good story.
Got one more question for you, and that is, how did it feel to win a Blues Music Award?
Wow. Honestly, I still can't believe it. And it just, to me, I tell people, what I've been telling people just means that I have to work harder, and it's an honor just to be recognized by your peers. But I find there's so many great blues players that came before me that I have to really make sure that I'm doing my job. Just that when I'm playing anytime, just for people, it's not really about am I playing the right notes, or did I play the right phrase, or was that I always want to make sure that it's the correct phrase and the correct chords or whatnot, but it's more about not the technical side, but did I really make the people feel what they're coming there to feel? And with blues, it's easier said than done, but it's making sure that if I want to represent the Blues Foundation and talk about the blues, that I kind of carry the history and the feeling, and along with the fun side and the partying things. But
Right.
It's just like when I think of like Bobby Rush or Ronnie Earl or Walter Trout, people, or Buddy Guy, for the people that have been playing,
Right.
70 plus years, that they play with a feeling that I still need to live. Holland Festival, I opened up for like Jeff Beck and Ringo Starr.
Right.
And I kid you not, I'm in the dressing room, and but Jeff had all the security and gates, but you could still kind of hear. And I kid you not, he was warming up, practicing. And it's for a good 15. I'm changing my strings, pulling the polish on the guitar, making it look nice, and he's in his room practicing. And I'm thinking, I said, man, if he still has to practice, and not that he had.
Has to, but
Yeah, he does. The fact that he loves to play, that means that nobody can rest. And so to get the award is kind of that same feeling, that where it's like, you just have to keep on working, keep on living, and that is taking it as much fun as being a musician is, and all the hanging out and parties. It's still a very serious, and I have a lot of respect for the music and the people that enjoy listening to the music to make them feel good.
What is remarkable to me, and one of the reasons we wanted to back up the emerging artist thing, is just the idea of, most blues fans look like me, sort of these middle-aged white guys with gray hair. And what I was worried about, and what a lot of people are worried about, is who's the blues audience of the future? And what it takes, I think, is younger artists like you who are learning to redefine the blues. Like Kingfish has gone off in all kinds of amazing directions with it. And your virtuosity in terms of all these different musical forms, I think, is going to do a lot to keep the blues alive. What do you sort of see yourself doing, down the road here? Are you going to stick with the blues, or are you going to sort of branch out into some more jazz stuff, or what do you think?
I'm definitely going to always have a foot in the blues. I find when I practice at home, I always end up going to something like either like a Michael Bloomfield or as I like to say the Three Kings. I like a lot of
Yeah, right.
the guys like Three Pedals, like when I hear Michael Bloomfield and that type, like, you know, those type of feelings. But definitely BB Albert and Freddie, but really. We're still having a thing for the blues, trying to bridge that gap. And there's a lot of players that do it today, like when I listen to Marcus King and like the Kingfish and the Selwyn Birchwoods, because there's a lot of people in my generation that you might have heard the blues, but you might not have heard the right song that will really hook you to it. Where like sometimes where I can listen to like the Muddy Waters or Mississippi John Hurt and really appreciate it. But my friend who's also 25, be like, no, I like more like, 808. So I definitely, for the future, still continue touring and playing festivals and just being on the road, but finding ways to kind of bridge that gap of, yeah, this is blues, and here's some real blues, here's some vegetables for you.
Yeah.
And let me take you back to the real thing for a moment, but then and then I kind of tell people there's a certain, when I play music, I kind of focus more on the happier, the dance side, like you're at a ballroom and you're with your date and everybody's dressed to the nines and you just dance until your clothes are all sweaty, then you're ready to get out of there.
Right.
And I find it's about this connecting all the ages, all the cultures together, because you want to have something that somebody who's in their 90s, in their 80s, that you want to be able to reach them, but also somebody who's in their teenage years, 20s, 30s, and even if, sometimes they may not understand it when they're younger, but when you get older, you really appreciate. Say the blues is always going to hit you at some point. Don't matter when, but we all get them.
Right, exactly. Listen, it's been fantastic talking to you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and all the success in the future for you, man. Want to see your career continue to take off like it has.
And Mr. Reed, so thanks for just taking the time to talk. And whenever the shows start coming back, I definitely expect some backstage passes from me, so you can hang out with your friends.
That'd be great. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much.
Man. Enjoy the beach.
It's time for the Blues Trail Music Report with Tameal Edwards. Tameal, how you doing today?
I'm so good, Ted. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Listen, I wanted to find out who's coming to town and give folks a good idea of some of the variety of people that are now on the road and passing through town.
Yes. Well, first, let me tell you, it's always a good time in Clarksdale, a bunch of good music in Clarksdale. But there's a couple acts who come through every now and again that I think should be mentioned. So we have on this Saturday, Robert Kimbrough is going to be at Reds, which Robert comes through our town. You'll see his name on the billboard here and there for different festivals and stuff, so it's always a treat whenever he's in town. And then Ground Zero has Zach Coates tonight, and Zach's only 19 years old playing the blues from Hattiesburg. And so we're really excited about him coming to town. Also, this week, Ground Zero started their first Hump Day Jam. So not only will they be jamming on Thursdays, but we'll be jamming on Wednesdays as well, because there's so many amazing musicians that are always in town. Also, I would like to mention that Sean Bad Apple is offering music 6 days out the week from 3 to 7, which is awesome. So it's always a good solo duo act over there, good chill afternoon. Jam session sometimes is at his place. So if you're in town, come on by Sean Apples and after lunch and come listen to some good old-fashioned blues.
That's a great idea. One of the things that I've noticed whenever I'm in town there and there is a jam at Ground Zero, you have no idea who's going to pop up on that stage. You
literally do not. No, you do not.
And sometimes it's some jaw-dropping talent. What are they doing here? This is amazing.
I think, man, right before the pandemic, we had Sassy Brown from Alabama, and just a random Thursday jam. We were packed. It was a good jam. And this lady, and I always tell people I hear good music all the time. If I turn around and like look at this stage while I'm busy, you got to be like, OMG. So all of a sudden I'm busy, I'm working, and I hear this powerhouse voice on stage, and I turn around. It was like everything was in slow motion once Sassy Brown started singing, and this lady was like killing it. Very soulful voice, but of course she's from Alabama. So, but yeah, I mean, you never know who's on stage. Now, it is a blues jam, but however, you know, sometimes we've had teenagers say haikus.
Right.
We had a guy who rapped one time. There's a couple of people who sing R&B to get on stage. So
Great.
You never know what you'll see. Mainly it's blues, but every now and again you get a special treat.
Exactly. And the other thing that's really amazing is the sort of range of styles that the band, whoever it is, you know, up there can cover. And that's really wild. That's amazing. I think it just proves more how much great musical talent there is in Clarksdale.
Oh, yeah. These musicians, a lot of the musicians, of course, they're free agents, so they play with multiple bands. They might be known for playing with a particular band, but for the most part, they mix it up. You might see this drummer play with this band this day and another band the next day. Next thing you know, he's on tour with somebody else. So they're so used to playing different styles of music. There's been a couple times where things have happened to where a band can't show up, and we're like, hey, Lee Williams, you'll play drums. Walt Busby, you're on guitar.
Right.
Hey, Jack Lee Bumpers, and you'll come up with this amazing band that have been playing together for over 20 years, but haven't played together in like 5 or 6, but it's still, you know, they picked up without missing a beat. So, yeah, it's always interesting to see how Jam Night is going to turn out, because you get so many different dynamics on stage.
Oh, yeah. It's really exciting, though, because again, you don't know who's coming up next, and usually they're really good. You know, that's the thing. All right, Tameal, thank you very much. This was great to catch up with you.
Thank you so much, Ted.
And once again, everybody, you know, check out what's going on at Ground Zero. Check out cathead.biz to sort of see what day by day is going on music-wise. And Tameal, we'll be talking again as we get closer to some of the other big events happening this year.
Absolutely, Ted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tameal. All right, check you next time. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the Blues Trail Revisited podcast in partnership with Visit Clarksdale. You can watch the film that inspired this podcast by going to www.bluestrailrevisited.com. And you can find out a lot more about Clarksdale, Mississippi by going to visitclarksdale.com or download the app and check out all the cool interactive features. I'd like to shout out a special hello to the folks at Shared Experiences USA. They're organizing some special Delta experiences, including Clarksdale's Black History Experience and Deke Harp's Blues Experience. Check out the Shared Experiences Facebook page or sharedexperiencesUSA.com. Are you experienced? I'm Ted Reed, and to all you blues music fans out there, keep on hitting the blues trail. You never know what you're going to find. The Blues Trail Revisited podcast is produced by Ted Reed Productions. Field audio producer is Nolan Dean, and our project manager is Jamie Nice. Thanks for listening.